My story started when I turned 40. I was single and I didn't have any idea if I was fertile, even. I had to figure out if my body was even still capable of making a child, and I had to learn how to self assess that and then optimize from there. I also had to figure out how to get sperm, but that's a whole separate part of my story. I got pregnant over 40. Nothing about it was easy. And I'm here to share with the thousands of women who are looking at getting pregnant in the advanced maternal age. It is not impossible, but I'm also not here to give any false hopes. There are things that everyone has to learn when trying to conceive, but especially women who are over 36 or 38, and certainly over 40. So I want to help illuminate what is really important for women of advanced maternal age to understand if they're going to start wanting to try to conceive. And surely I do want to give hope. I want to put out that lots of things are possible. And we need to look at statistics, but not listen to statistics, because each of us is not a statistic, each of us is an individual. So we look at that so we have a general idea of what we might be getting into, but we don't rely on statistics to tell us our story. Each of us is going to have our own story, which is why I'm not going to focus too much on mine right now, but I'm going to focus on, from my direct experience, what I would want to gift to the thousands of women who are trying to conceive, especially at later ages. Numbers of women in their late 30s and over 40 have asked me, well, what did you do? How did you do it? And one of the reasons I don't share the details of my story is because it's not replicable. Nobody's story is the same, and what worked for me may not work for someone else. One of these women who was asking me, what did you do? What worked for you? She had already done an IVF and an egg donation round and had not succeeded to hold a pregnancy. So it doesn't really matter what the method is that worked for someone else. And this is very important for women over 40 who are looking for stories. I hope that you will take everyone else's story as inspiring and useful, but not as what you need to replicate. Because one big thing I say to any woman trying to conceive, but especially over 40, your story is yours. And all I can share with you is the knowledge, the factual information about fertility physiology that can be replicated and understood by other women right in their own homes. And it is not being disseminated by the medical profession as a whole. Instead, they're asking us to come to their labs, to come to their testing. They're giving us diagnoses from their processing of information and taking fertility out of our hands. While it can be helpful, like I said, in the end, this was a great help for me to finally conceive my twins. While it can be helpful, this is not our first go-to place. Our first go-to place is here. Our first go-to place is with our own body. If we can't trust our body and be willing to learn that kind of intimacy of understanding its cycles, its processes, we have lost chance to conceive. One thing I can tell you as a woman over 40 who has conceived a few times, and one that stuck, our bodies were made to do this. Our bodies are made to do this. The more I studied and tracked my body, I saw this gorgeous symphony, this amazing orchestration of hormone levels and fluctuations and parts of the organs opening and closing, and this kind of cervical fluid being made and then changed, and amazing orchestration by my body to be able to bear a child. And that's not just mine, that is your body as well. It's made to do this. So we have to work with our body that's already loving to get pregnant. I recommend what I learned to do a high level of at-home self-assessments, and that means track. Learn how to track all of the fertility physiology that is apparent in our bodies when we learn how to look for it. And then be able to analyze that information, even just a bit, to give us a sense of our self-assessments, to understand where is our body at in our fertility level, and then from there to decide if to enlist a medical professional and what we're actually going for, what kinds of follow-up blood work or other kinds of imaging examinations we believe that we need at this stage. For women over 40, there are two things to think about. One is egg quality and egg reserve, and that stands on its own. The other is optimizing all of the other things about fertility. So I'm going to separate and talk about one and then the other. I also want to speak at least a little bit about what I am now comfortably calling the fertility racket, because this is the main reason why I'm making these videos and why I started the brand Fertility for Real. I want to help empower women and couples to understand their own bodies, to assess their own fertility, and to work in collaboration, if they choose, with medical professionals. This way we can avoid being taken too quickly to a diagnosis, too directly to high cost, high intervention methods that have low statistics for positive outcomes. Our infertility medicine is a blessing and a gift to many, and including myself at the end of my journey. The artificial reproductive technologies played a big role in my ability to finally conceive. But after years, I learned how to optimize alone. And this is the most important for any woman, including and especially women over 40, over 38, so that we can maybe avoid having to go for, again, I call them high intervention, high price ticket, low success rate procedures. And that's most of what infertility medicine offers us. Most of it is a crapshoot for anyone. So I want to bring women back to starting with what we can know about and optimize in our own bodies.